Okay. Okay, so everyone can hear me.
Yes.
Okay, and I cannot hear my echo. Okay, so we're glad that we figured this out. So I will start again. Hi, everyone. Nice to be here. Nice to have you all here. We are happy to be back with this virtual meetup, but also happy to be hosting in-person conferences again. We are going to have the next in-person conference on the 21st of June, Prague Gaming Summit. And then we also going to meet in autumn on the 16th of September in Budapest for the 7th edition of the prestigious Central and Eastern European Gaming Conference. All right, so let's kickstart today with the interesting live streamers panel discussion that we put together for this virtual meetup. And I have with me the four horsemen of the live streaming industry. I will start by doing a quick roll call roundup. David Mann, Chief Commercial Officer at Swint. Hi, David. Michael Peterson, CCO at Livespins. Hi. All right. Will Barnes, co-owner of Hideous Slots. I don't know why it's called Hideous, because they actually look very nice.
That's very flattering of you.
Brian Upton, founder of Luxem.
Hi.
All right, so let's just do a quick round of introduction with everyone, because I think that's the best way to put it. Either way, your bios are listed on the website, but maybe you would like to give a more personal touch to it and give a bit of a background about yourself and your company. Let's start with David.
Hi, thanks, Sultan. So I'm the Chief Commercial Officer at Swint. We are a B2B game supplier. We have a range of our own slot content, as well as working with third parties to distribute slot content from them. For example, we have land-based content popular across the German and Dutch markets that we bring online, as well as working with a live dealer solution, Swint Live, which is broadcast directly from Las Vegas. Thanks, Sultan.
All right. Michael.
Yeah, hi, good morning, everyone. So Michael Peterson, Chief Commercial of Livespins. So Livespins is a new sort of social live streaming solution where instead of watching casino streamers passively on Twitch at home, you can also join the action and bet behind the live streamer. So that's what we do.
All right. Will.
Hi, I'm Will from Hideous Slots. Started Hideous Slots sort of three years ago, I think now. Very aware of the live streaming community in casino. Wanted to get involved, and have been sort of solidly building a community ever since. Starting with working with operators, and now increasingly working with game providers.
All right.
Showcase some of this great content.
All right. So why is it called Hideous Slots? I'm very curious.
It's. I mean, actually, that's a great question. I wish I had a more prepared answer. I mean, to be perfectly honest, I think it was. I think it was to do with an initial reaction quite early. We were playing a game, and I think a member of the audience, one of the viewers at the time, just described something that had happened. They just said, "That is hideous," and I said, "Yes. That is hideous." And I think we just, in order to solidify that moment and remember it, we just changed the name to Hideous, and we've been hideous ever since.
All right, fair enough. Brian.
Hi, Zoltan. Thanks for having me on this call. This will be an interesting one, I think. My name is Brian Upton. I've been in the industry since about 2006, mainly on the kind of product strategy and kind of games design side of casino, both land-based, working out of Vegas, and then online. And Luxem is a pandemic game studio, so to speak. So we started up mid-pandemic, which was super interesting. We have 5 games out, so we're very small and young, but the team is not young in terms of experience. I'm not calling out my team saying they're ancient, but I'm saying that we've done a lot of stuff collectively, and we are making games, putting them out there, and hopefully getting players interested in this new brand and building on it, and strength to strength. So happy to be on this call.
Happy to have you here, and that's good to hear. Yeah, I've been talking with the team. I think even yesterday I was asking the question that where are all these slots games coming from? Where does this creativity come from? Because we see a lot of slots game releases daily, and I know where the creativity is coming from. So there is no question that the online slot streaming is enjoying a meteoric rise in popularity. And I think you all know right now what the proceedings are. So it's David, Michael, we're Brian in terms of answering the questions. And David, what are you doing to leverage the potential what this rise of online slot streaming is providing?
Yeah, the popularity of slot streaming, it's increasing all the time. For us as a slot supplier, I think it's very important that the streaming community knows about our game releases so they can share our latest titles with their followers and engage with their community. We like to hold a good relationship with streamers, especially those that we think share the same kind of culture and beliefs as our studio. There's a lot of different opportunities out there in the market, but we like to be quite specific about who we work with, and making sure that it's the right fit for us as a company, as a brand, and that we want to be perceived in the market. Of course, it's important that games are liked by the community and by the people who follow those streamers specifically. And we're trying to make sure that our game content, that we have features or mechanics that players who watch streamers enjoy, and then they might go and play the games themselves. So there's a lot of high volatility games, and adding in really high maximum wins, just to try and make sure our portfolio appeals to the streamers as well as the community as well.
All right, thank you, Michael.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the sort of the founding ethos of Livespins, if you will, is built around what we have seen happen on Twitch for the last many years right now, and what Will is one of the pioneers in doing and driving. I think for us when we started, there's always this mantra in online casino gaming: are casino players social? Does a social product work towards casino players? And for us, Twitch and casino streaming is really a fantastic use case in answering that question. And you can see the meteoric rise, like you're mentioning, Will's success. What is it? 280 million hours have been consumed on the slots category in the last 12 months. So and the chat is buzzing in many of those streams, right? So for us, that answers the question: can casino players be social? 100% yes, if let's say the mechanics and the environment around them is correct. So yes, if their privacy can be intact. Yes, if they're surrounded by like-minded individuals, and yes, if they're with a sort of a product or a streamer or an experience that really sort of cares about them, if you will, and puts their value top of the list, as opposed to trying to sort of milk it, if you will. So we're Twitch was the starting point, and we're trying to come out with a different spin on it, taking the best from the Twitch world, and trying to leave behind some of the more negative stuff that we have observed.
Yeah, I think everyone is taking advantage of the Twitch movement, because even with Zoom, we are usually broadcasting on YouTube. And just today, I just saw that we can also broadcast this meetup on Twitch. So yeah, even Zoom is jumping on board. All right, Will.
Yeah, I mean, just building upon what Michael said there, I think it's very interesting to talk not just about how you can use these streams to sort of like push content out live, and that anyone can stumble across it. But I think more the advantage is actually building a community, which is something which does take a long time. And this is really where we're now actually seeing things change. It's maybe before like more organic users of Twitch, they would just be hopping between streams, and just almost dependent upon what game was being played. The strong communities now they're going to stay with the streamer that they like, because they actually connect with them on a personal level, and we have a whole community that sort of backs that up. And I think that's one of the main strengths that you can bring to casino streaming, or any sort of like model where there's an influencer. You become a focal point and you're creating conversations around great products. And that is kind of what I'm saying now. It's more about, you know, using us in order to actually showcase all of the great things that are going on all of the great sort of innovation from people such as Brian.
Got it. Yeah, I see you already set up. You have the green wall behind you, and
I'm just ready. I'm good to go. I'm good to go. Like, you know, we'll green screen some fishes we'll green screen some roulette on the back of this afterwards.
All right, so maybe people will find you much easier when they are searching hideous slots. All right, so Brian, you would like to give a point on this as well, or just save it for later?
Yeah, no, I mean, there's a lot of points have been touched on already. I just emphasize them. So this, and I've done a lot of work on this on the land-based side in terms of sociality of slots play, right? You look at a couple that go into a US casino, and the guy and the man and wife kiss each other and split up and goes to video poker or tables, and she sits in front of the slots. And then you watch them play, which I've done, and that's kind of sad and a bit creepy, but I've watched slot players play for hours just to understand what they do and how they react. And ultimately, the current format of things is very desocialized gaming. You know, they sit next to someone, they'll maybe high five when a trigger comes along, a bonus feature, but ultimately they're not doing that much. So, you know, on the land-based side, you know, more can be done to do that, even in a physical environment. Online, the wonderful thing about it is that, you know, human nature, you know, we need sociality. We're born, that's what we require. So just to say that slots players don't require it is nonsense. And the fact that you have this kind of internet barrier that actually protects your privacy allows you to be more comfortable. So I think there's a lot of room on that side. From a slots provider point of view, and especially a small one like myself, I think it's a large part of understanding for us what is out there, how is this going to benefit the business, to sound kind of clinical about it, but what's the business case? We know that, you know, at the moment, it's not the entire market that is sitting watching Twitch and watching people play. So how big is that getting? Is it going to encompass the kind of the better quality players in terms of spend and loyalty? Those things, I don't think we have enough data on that yet. The other part of it is just what kind of games. At the moment, a lot of the games that are there require big numbers or big-ish numbers in order to draw crowds. But I'm hoping that as that matures, we'll be able to see all kinds of games going up there where everyone can feel comfortable about playing them. So from our side, we're developing slots for people like Will to go to town on, because we know that we get exposure, we get players to notice us. Being a new brand, we need that exposure. We need people to just know about Luxem, the fact that we even exist and we have these games out, and, you know, we put a lot of effort, blood, sweat and tears into them. So we need people to see them. So, you know, we have to develop slots in that way. And then we need to look for partners who are going to help increase the sociality around the slots. And I think that's very important as well. So we just need to learn more, keep providing the right products so that the guys can really push them and enjoy them and authentically enjoy them, rather than to smile and say this is a great slot, but actually I want them to go, this is a good slot. Thank you very much for making it. I really enjoyed it. And that's really a big part of what we need to do in order to kind of jump on this interesting part of the industry.
All right, so are there any, I'm going to ask you all, maybe somebody who can reply in terms of compliance. Are there any restrictions to other streaming channels? Like, for instance, can you stream it to Facebook or LinkedIn or anywhere else, or only Twitch?
I mean, like if I'll pick up on that, Zoltan. It does fall into a little bit of a grey area. At the moment, we stream to YouTube and Twitch. There's been some issues raised with regard to the age gating and the fact that, like, it is accessible to under 18s. And the sort of safeguards that are put in place by the streaming platforms are a little bit ineffective, in as much as that your only real choice is to sort of basically switch it off and make the content inaccessible. And that's one of the things that I think the whole streaming community has tried to reach out and ask for sort of better tools to sort of try and model the audience, because obviously there is a responsible gambling issue. We don't want the content to be accessed by under 18s or by people who may have a gambling problem, and it might make it worse. However, on that issue, we have a lot of people that take part in the stream that actually say that this is really helping them, if with regard to the responsible gambling issue.
Okay, good. And we are seeing some studios building their own teams of streamers. Are there any pros and cons of doing this, David?
Yeah, for sure. There's two sides to that one. I think to look at the pros, it means that you're going to get more exposure for your content. If you're working with different streamers, they might have certain deals or even just a preference for different game providers. And, you can't really fully control which content they play. Whereas if it's an in-house streamer, you can obviously guide them to play your own content. But on the flip side, I think from a legitimacy point of view and to be more authentic, then you run the risk of, say, bias, and they may not be as critical of any elements of the game which are not so great. They may be overly positive and upselling content that players might just not really like. So I think that if the viewers don't really know, then they might be getting a really an authentic experience, and it's quite hard to trust it. But hopefully, if there's some kind of transparency and players know that this is a streamer that's built by a game studio, then at least they can understand, okay, maybe they're just showing off their content, but I should at least take it with a pinch of salt.
Got it. Michael.
Yeah, just touching on your previous point as well. Can you stream somewhere else? I mean, that's what we try and think about at Livespins, and so it's obviously a different solution and a different sort of product, if you will, than sort of a casino affiliate streamer, if you will, on Twitch. But Livespins streams predominantly inside the casino lobby. So it's predominantly reaching players that have already registered with an operator, has already set their limits, whatever the RG sort of settings is of that operator. So we're taking the streaming experience, the hoodies, the authenticity, the let's say the unboxing of content. But we're doing it inside the lobby. We're also multicasting to Twitch, but predominantly it's happening inside the lobby. So it's just a different spin on it. And to answer your other question around online streaming and should providers and sort of operators set up their own operations, I spoke about this topic. It's very sort of dear to my heart in Malta last week as well. And I think in general, I mean, especially for the providers and operators that are moving in the regulated space, I mean, regulations and keeping up with regulations is sort of taking up, I would say, more or less sort of 40 to 50% of everyone's headspace and focus, and just keeping up both from a sort of marketing regulations, but definitely also from a product regulations perspective. So I'm very keen on sort of encouraging more collaboration across the industry, and sort of try and reach out, try and see if there is a supplier out there that does streaming at its core, be it a Twitch streaming house or an affiliate streaming house or Livespins or whoever it may be. But I think there's a lot to say to sticking to your core, do what you do best. And then it's better to reach out and try and find partners to help you with the rest, because it is a difficult problem to solve. A lot of people think it's just solving the tech, but it's not. The tech, everyone will solve the tech. Yeah. We're dealing with human beings, we're dealing with communities, we're dealing with streamers, we're dealing with personalities, and and that problem is a much harder problem to solve, and requires full focus and effort on that. So yeah, so again, on this stream, that will be my recommendation. Let's try and collaborate more across the different stakeholders and parties in the industry.
All right, so I guess if you are going to sign someone, it will probably be the Sugar Hill Gang.
Yeah, exactly.
Based on your,
you recognize the word, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, even 3 weeks ago when we were in Vilnius and we had a main stage sponsor, a slots provider, they had been showcasing their recent slots game on the banners, and there were the regulators there from Lithuania, and since marketing of games is prohibited there, they were actually okay. They said they are going to turn their head and say that they did not see this, but it's funny that we as the conference organizer were the one to blame for advertising a slots provider. So we're getting into a compliance area which we don't like. All right, Will.
Yeah, I mean, like certainly some interesting points raised here, and like, you know, the regulatory one is something very interesting with regard to, you know, to bring that back. If you're going to have your own if you build out your own team of streamers, this is something which you can maybe like sleep a little bit easier at night. You know, when I'm working with like, obviously I've worked with multiple operators and multiple game providers, and you know, one of the things that you can tell, you can really tell that they're very concerned about if you might say the wrong thing, if you might, you know, tarnish their brand. Not just in, I mean, not just in the same way that might happen to other influencers, you know, when you have that kind of advertising relationship, but because the casino space is so contentious, you know, surrounding advertising, you know, it's something that everyone's very aware of. You know, please don't say this. Please don't, you know, show our brand in that light. I definitely think if you build out your own team, you'll have some confidence. You can kind of almost, maybe, obviously you don't want to be giving them a script and them to seem like very robotic, but you can definitely say, look, this is off bounds. Don't do that. You know, if you're working with streamers like myself, I mean, realistically, what sort of qualifications could they bring to the table which would give you that confidence? You know, they have an audience, but maybe they have an audience because they're kind of controversial, or, you know, or and you know, how do you harness that without sort of putting your brand at risk? I 100% think that there is room within this space for you know, casino operator or game provider curated groups of streamers in order to showcase products. However, I think it's a different sort of audience to what we are building out, not just in terms of the space in which they occupy, because as Michael said, you know, they're already sitting inside of casino lobbies, so they don't have to worry about the regulators so much, but also they're not bringing in fresh people into the space. These are people that are already established, they're already signed up, so you might be able to push them towards a specific product, but you aren't bringing them into online gaming as a whole. I think kind of because, like, what I mean, I can't say this with confidence because, you know, I think it's too early to say, but I wonder if perhaps the sort of audience that you would garner with this sort of in-house streamers might be a little bit more transient and short-lived, in as much as, you know, as David says, it's difficult to maintain that level of authenticity over a long amount of time. I don't know that it's impossible, but certainly, you know, one of the main things that we have found, you know, growing a large audience, and like, you know, now a couple of recent streams in the last week, you know, I've had a stream of almost 2,000 people over the weekend. You know, that's a big audience to have at one time, you know, and one of the things that keeps people coming back is that trust, you know, having that trust with the audience. They trust that if you say a game, you like a game, you mean it, you know, and if you say, oh, that was rubbish, you know, they can kind of feel for it, and they're kind of coming along with you. They're almost living vicariously through you. And I think that is really important in terms of building a large audience. And I think that's difficult to do. You know, if you have an in-team house of streamers, especially if it's not their own money, if, you know, they're playing with sort of like funds. However, like, a massive challenge, and like, you know, I'll be really interested to see where Michael goes with that and makes it succeed.
You need to build some sort of university of streamers.
Yeah. If I could just touch on that, because I love everything that you say. Well, I think this is so common in our industry. Like we always go to or, like it's Will or live spins. It's an in-house team or, you know, whoever it may be, right? That I so do not believe in that. It's Will and live spins, Will and maybe your own in-house streaming team as well. I don't know, whatever the right answer is for you and your situation and you know your funding and your markets and how much you're regulated or not regulated. How long is a piece of string, right? But we just have to get out of this. Like it's an or question. It's not. It's like that. You know, get everything out, especially if you're a provider. Like don't limit yourself. I mean, like you're saying, there's 250 plus studios out there now. There's whatever 10 to 20 new slots being launched every single day. Like don't think multiple exposure channels. Get yourself out there and then let the audience decide where they want to interact. Maybe the best interaction is on Will's channel and that's where you get the most bang for your buck. Maybe they don't know about Twitch and they love the streaming experience, but sitting inside the lobby because that's where they are most comfortable. I mean, so yeah, it's not or. I just wanted to make that point.
All right, Brian, would you like to add to this point?
Yeah, I mean, I've probably got a lot to say on this one. I think, I mean, I'm speaking again. So you've touched on most of the things that I kind of want to labor on, really. So I'm coming from a similar direction as David here in terms of we're a provider, we're smaller. So for us, just the pros are exposure, of course, but having, for a decent while now and seeing the impact and the effects and also the, to a certain amount do's and don'ts. And this is from my previous, roles in previous companies. I think the cons are that business is entirely different to
I think we are losing Brian. Brian, please just refresh your connection if you're hearing us. Yeah, until then, I will just go to the next question, and once Brian gets back, we will let him finish. You guys have already launched your streaming channels, right? So just how difficult is it to launch a streaming channel and of course build a sizable audience? Were there any key challenges you guys faced, and maybe you can tell the audience how you overcome them? David, we would start with you.
I see Brian's back, so if we can either move on or if you want to let Brian.
Brian, can you hear us?
Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. I really don't know what happened. I just flashed off and then came back on again. I promise I didn't touch a single thing there.
You can continue then.
No, I think what I was saying was, if you're going to start something up like that you would want, you would need a separate business to do that, and with different people, and it takes scale. I mean, local content is where we're going. So if you think you can put a couple of streamers speaking English to kind of get the distribution, you said it before. It's about volume, Michael. It's about distribution for us. We got to get our game in front of as many eyeballs as possible. That means Spanish speakers. That means that's a lot of people you've got to consider to do that. And so it's just a separate business. So from our side, it's very much prohibitive, and that's why, again, echoing Michael, it's a partnership thing. You've got to find the right people who are going to push the right products to the right players in order to kind of hit the chord you want. And then absolutely it's about authenticity. I mean, we've done games, we've brought in streamers earlier and said, do you like it? Is this good? If you don't like it, you don't have to play it. In fact, I don't want you to play it because you will hate it and your audience will. And I've been watching streams where that streamer is playing a game that he's kind of like not happy with, but kind of needs to play it, and that just falls flat. And it's not a good experience for any single one. The game provider, the game isn't painted in a great light. The streamer who's clearly sweating in a seat and then you've got his audience that numbers are dropping as we go. Not great. So I think in general, authenticity, which is what David had said, is absolutely key. So that means you've got to find the right people with the right product who are going to play it and enjoy it. And when I say enjoy it, I don't necessarily mean they're going to win every time, but they're going to enjoy the experience that you've built for them. And so I think that's the most important thing: products, right people, and partnerships to get the voice out there and make it happen.
All right. So you should stop saying that you're a small company. You're a company.
Yeah, no, I know. It's just that's just being real, my friend. Just being real.
All right. So David, let's talk about that channel building and streaming channels.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not an easy task. You're trying to build a following on any kind of network or medium. It's got a lot of challenges, and streaming is no different. I mean, it's ultra competitive, just like the game provider spaces as well. So you're really trying to how do you get the eyeballs looking at your content and making sure that they follow your every move, the audience. I think again, to go back to trust, I think it's really important that you want to make sure that players find that you're trustworthy, that streamers are entertaining, and that you have to keep regularity. People are looking for a schedule. They want to find that the right streamers are playing at the right time, which kind of content are they playing. So it's really important. But yeah, I think getting that trust from players that it's reasonable or it's enjoyable is important. I mean, there's enough, let's say, shady streamers out there in the market that are just doing ridiculous bonus buys and playing clearly with fake money. And okay, they have an audience and they have a following. But I guess a big part of it as well is that they're entertaining. And streamers can help change the perception of gaming. I think that there's enough challenges in the way for our industry sometimes, and having illegitimate, untrustworthy streamers can really go against what we're actually all of us are trying to achieve and be more compliant, be more regulated, be more player first, player centric, and responsible. So definitely trying to at least overcome that challenge as well. It's definitely quite a hurdle for us, but I think it's really important that we want to try and make it somewhat trustworthy and honest to the players. It's going to be difficult in the long run. I think with the constant regulation and the challenges that are coming in, say in the affiliate sector and thus into the streaming sector, there's obviously been changes put forward from Twitch. These challenges, coupled with the rise of, say, crypto gaming and ludicrous bet level fake streamers, it can be quite hard for the legitimate guys. I imagine that Will can touch on quite a bit more of this than I, but we hope in the long run that things are going to kind of balance out, just hopefully as they should, because there's enough challenges for everybody there.
Yeah, and it's great to get together like this and talk about such situation. All right, Michael.
Yeah, sorry, if you don't mind just repeating the question. The crazy thing happened because I had the Amazon delivery guy at the door bang in the middle of our recording. Apologies for that.
So it was about just how difficult it is to launch a streaming channel, and how difficult is it to build a sizable audience, and are there any key challenges you guys have faced, and maybe you can tell us how you overcome them?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's no doubt Will probably be the lead man on that question, right? I think, well, like I said before, we're dealing with human beings, and anytime you do that, that's a tricky one. You need to sort of perform yourself as a streamer. You have to go live for a number of hours every single day, and of course, there's new content, but it's also just it's a content machine that just eats. You have to feed it constantly. Like, what are you going to talk about? How are you going to engage your audience? Are you going to do a tournament? Is there 10 new slots you can talk about? Is it a bonus hunt? What are you doing, right? But I think that's the thing that just never stops. It's just 24/7. What are you going to feed that machine? Like I said, the tech you will solve. You will figure out how to stream. You will find the right equipment. You will figure out how OBS works, all these kind of things. But that machine never stops. And I think that's the trickiest part. I think for live spins, we are also working across. So our format is our streamers are our employees, effectively, is our contractors, if you will. So we let's say we have some let's say additional challenges. That is not only ourselves. We also have to sort of coach a team, recruit a team, hire acting coaches or voice coaches or a content team to help them sort of let's say come up with ideas like what shall we do, and sort of, let's say, scale that, as Brian was alluding to before, like across a number of streamers, but also across a number of cultures and languages, and what might work in the UK will maybe not work outside of UK, and how do you sort of tailor the experience so it's very local to the player, but at the same time it needs to be structured enough for a business to scale, because we, as much as we would like to be super hyper local to each single player, that's also just a hard problem to solve as you scale. So I think all of us have come at it from different ways, but that's sort of some of the challenges from Livespin's side, at least.
Okay, that's fair. Thank you. Real.
Yeah, I mean, like there's so much to talk about here. I mean, like it's very, if there was just some magic dust and you could say, right, that's how you're going to be successful, that there is no, that just doesn't exist. I think, like some of the things that Michael said, and that David said, in terms of like, keeping to a regular schedule, that's obviously super important. People need to know that you're coming back and that when to expect to hear from you. In terms of like bringing up, in terms of like how you actually are on the streams, I think that's super important as well. You have to be. It's interesting because you said why are you called Hideous Slots? Well, I mean, the thing is about being called Hideous Slots is that you remember it. I have a huge amount of respect for anyone that's basically succeeded in this space, because it's a very, very challenging space to succeed in. It's if you're managing to do well, it's because you have something. You're either terribly charismatic, or maybe you're playing with fake money, and you manage to garner some like short-term interest, people just coming in, and maybe they have just a sort of, they don't care about whether the money is real. They just want to be entertained, and they're like, you can build an audience that way. There's multiple ways in order to kind of succeed. But I think as with sort of like looking at other influencer spaces, the best way to succeed is to actually just be a little bit different, if you know what I mean, just to try and stand out a little. And certainly that's what I've done. And 3 years in, we've seen. I think the first stream I did, we started off with some just sort of pre-recorded video content, having sort of like 20 or 30 viewers, moving right the way up to sort of audience sizes of 200 or 300 people watching at any time, and then, like I say, recently, like massive success with audiences of 1,000 or 2,000 people now. And this is the thing, once you start getting to the top of this sort of space, especially the top of this authentic space, things can really start snowballing. And it's easy to move up from moving up from sort of like 30 to 100 people watching is so challenging, so difficult, because at the start your first 30 people are probably your friends, and they want to come on board and sort of help. Moving from like past that, it can be super challenging because you need to engage. Also, a lot of what's going on during any particular stream is actually just quite boring, for any particular time. If you're playing a slot game, Brian will make a fantastic slot, but if we have a terribly unlucky session and play it for like 2 hours and nothing happens, not only does it make Brian's slot look bad, which is terrible, but it also, how do we keep things entertaining? How do I keep people watching? This is when people do really well, and it's like interesting, to hear Brian talk about kind of launching a product that you don't really believe in or something like that. If you can do that, I mean, I guess this is kind of like the advertising dream. If you're able to keep people entertained, keep people watching, even though things are going hopelessly badly. The wheels are coming off, but like a children's TV presenter, like a Blue Peter presenter, we're still carrying on. You've got live animals in, and they're urinating over the floor, but you're somehow keeping things going. Then you're doing well, and this is what you're dealing with a lot of the time. It's a lot. You never really know what's going to happen. You always need to have a plan B, a plan C, a plan B, D. You need to have things to talk about. You need to keep the audience engaged. And the longer that you keep eyeballs on the game, the more subconsciously it's going in. And they will remember that game. Even if it was a terrible session, they'll still remember it. And then they'll see it in the lobby, and they'll probably click on it. Even if the session was terrible, it works from a game provider point of view, no matter what happens, because subconsciously these people are being influenced by it.
I have one story I have to tell here. Well, I love all these examples. So one of our streamers is based in LATAM, and he actually had an earthquake happening on stream. So you see the webcam,
wow.
And he was continuing his stream. It's like earthquake. Okay, I think it's all right. Okay, back to the game.
I'm hoping I don't make a game. Don't make a game that lasts for 2 hours and doesn't give you anything, mate.
Yeah,
so if I do, I think you owe me a phone call straight away. So let's not make sure that doesn't happen.
All right, Brian, you would like to add to this?
Well, there's no point, because I've never launched a streaming channel in my life. Who knows in the future? But at this point, I think my comments would be fairly minimal versus the rest of these esteemed gentlemen.
I guess we will ask this question in a year or so.
Maybe.
All right. So you guys, what tactics are you using to drive growth? And another question is, are the audience demands changing? And if so, what is their impact on the streams? David.
I mean, at least to try, if I, like Brian, I mean, I don't have my own streaming channel, so to speak, but we do have, let's say, we're trying to build a following of players across numerous networks, be it through social media and forums. So, trying to make ourselves more visible and trying to engage with communities across different media channels. It's very important for us, especially, as a smaller studio, to try and propel ourselves out there. I would say that, at least from what I can see, the players, what they want from the streamers, it seems to be a lot of the big wins, exciting bonus rounds, really, nice visuals. And, I guess there has to be a kind of tandem connection between the streamer and how enthusiastic and exciting they are to watch, alongside content that really fits the bill and allows them to really grow into the game as well. Yeah, I don't have so much on this one compared to some of the other guys.
Okay, thank you. Michael.
Yeah, I mean, so we do multicast to Twitch, so there's an element of let's say drawing in a new audience, so to speak. But 90% of Livespin's action is streamed inside the casino operator's lobby. Mm-hmm. So when we talk about driving growth, we have a different challenge. It's not so much. I mean, let's say the community and the player liquidity comes as we scale with, and adding more operators that will sort of pool into this player liquidity, so to speak. So the community, to a large extent, is the player database of the operator, if you will, that is seeing the stream. So for us, that's the main challenge is scaling the product and onboarding as many operators as possible. So a bit of a different challenge.
Okay. Will?
Yeah, I mean, what tactics are we using to drive growth? I mean, to be completely honest, it's very difficult. Like I say, it's very, very challenging, but once you get to a larger level, the sort of the way that you grow is different. So, I mean, growing as an organic channel when you're very small, you just need to stream a lot and be entertaining, which is kind of like, that's kind of either works or it doesn't. It's kind of personal as to whether you can make that happen. As you get a little bit bigger, so now some of the things that I'm trying to do is collaborations with other streamers, popping up in their stream, they popping up. You just kind of share that big audience, especially working within the regulated space. Just last week when I was in Malta, I did a stream with Kim. Let's give it a spin. the biggest, one of the biggest, like legit casino streamers. You know, massive with casino brands. So that was really, really good for me in order to like, you know, move over and touch that audience and like and bring some back. That works well. That collaborative element really, really works. With regard to what the players want, I think David kind of touched on it. They want big wins. I would go further to that and say it's not just big wins. I think they want drama. You know, a bit like, you know, especially if you're sort of replacing this space. You know, I mean, I'm streaming in the evenings, so you know, maybe 20 years ago people were watching EastEnders. No, not so much. So they might want to watch me. The demands are the same. They still want something. They want something dramatic. So if it can't be a big win, a big loss. You know, oh, we thought it was going to be really good. It wasn't. You know, and this is where, you know, where actually I think I have some leverage compared to the crypto guys, the fake money guys. There's no real jeopardy there because, you know, if they blow their whole balance, they just click and they, you know, some more fake funds come in and, you know, it perpetuates. Whereas with me, like, you know, if I'm losing, it's real money and it's terrible. And like, you can kind of see it's written all over my face. And yes, we will come back, but you know, we try and at least keep one foot in reality so people can sort of relate to us. With regard to the games themselves, yes, people want to see like hugely volatile games. And, you know, if you rewind back, you know, obviously the landscape of like the sort of content that is being produced, and Brian touched on this earlier, you know, a lot of game providers are kind of making games for, you know, that are going to look good on TV. You know, even if they're terrible games to play in reality, you know, the sort of games that will sort of manufacture these huge, you know, 100,000x wins are terrible to play, you know, 99% of the time. They're hideous, completely hideous games to play for the most part. But, you know, there's an angle to that from a product point of view, in as much as you don't care that well, I mean, you obviously you do care, but like it's less important that your game is terrible for the 99 percentile. But for if that 1% of time it can go truly huge and it ends up being a big YouTube clip or something like that, lots of people are going to see that and then hunt that game out in the game lobbies. You know, and that works. There's an element of that. You know, so like providers such as like No Limit City, you know, that's their mantra. Their mantra is, right, we're just going to make games that just go crazy, and you know, we're going to get some coverage and some leverage from that. Hacksaw too, and these are two of the. It's very interesting. If you look at the unregulated space in streaming, you will see that those providers and Pragmatic are really at the forefront. That's the games that those streamers are playing because it provides drama. It works for them. It works for the providers too. And it's a really interesting angle.
And you can use a clickbait for title. Guy loses money on slots and can't pay energy bills.
Yeah, a nice like dramatic face.
Exactly. Brian, you would like to add something to this?
Well, yeah, I mean, growing audiences is what we're all about, right? So, yeah. I mean, I disagree with Will a little bit on the kind of math profile of these games. We've gone through this phase where, and it's true human nature, and it's even worse in our industry because we're all about extremes, right? I mean, we want to stand out. So we're all a bunch of peacocks, no offense to everyone here, but that's what we have to be in order to survive. So in that way, you know, we tend to go towards extreme. You know, you walk through a land-based casino and it's the brightest, most crazy looking cabinet that catches your eye, isn't it? Otherwise, it falls into the cacophony of everything else that's there. It's the same online. There's no difference. So we tend to attract that kind of extreme decision making. And so you can see we went through this kind of quite long phase of super high volatile slots. And unfortunately, you know, they are, like Will said, painful to play. And so I'm thinking we're hitting a ceiling. And there's a certain amount in the market of those games that can exist before there's not going to be enough room to hold any more of those. So, you know, I'm hoping what's going to happen is we're going to kind of come down to some happy medium in terms of this kind of payout potential stroke volatility, depending on how you look at it, where players are actually going to enjoy a streamer getting a bit of drama. And drama is the perfect word for this. It has to be dramatic. And at the same time, see a game that's actually going to, when you're not watching, but actually playing while, you know, in your own time, and actually going to be a rewarding experience. So there's always that, you know, extreme, and actually what actually ends up happening is somewhere around here where it's actually pleasurable to watch and play. And that's, I think, where we're seeing an interesting buck of the trend between market performance and, say, the games that are being played on stream, and how that's going to start to pull together a little bit. And I think we've got a long way to go to see it. But the drama is really important. So how can I, as a game provider, create drama without not necessarily having 100,000x wins? And there is plenty, there's infinite possibilities to do that. And that is the reason why I get out of bed in the morning, is that. So, I mean, creating drama is our job, right? And then it's creating drama for Will, essentially, to handle it if that's a big loss or a big win, and how he's going to express himself on screen. So I think for us, again, it's just about how can we do that and wrap it up with a beautiful theme. Those mechanics are really interesting, exciting. But I think we do need to avoid the fatigue and burnout of players and potentially streamers, but also be careful about this responsible part of the industry where these games are basically what you're going to have to wait a long time to try to get some of your money back, and that worries me a lot. And those harder games out there are going to be doing that. So I think we're going to have to get better mathematically. The maths, as most people know, is the secret sauce behind the games. So targeting our math and profiling our math to such a high degree, which is what we are doing, in order to go, here's for everyone else, there's a good chunk of change there, in the RTP and the profile of the game to keep you happy, but I'm still going to put some spice in for Will, so he can get those big wins and go a bit nuts and in front of his special magical roulette wheel that's in his background.
All right, so before we wrap up this session with the final question, I would like to, if you want drama, you should stick around for the next panel discussion, because it's about Russia and Ukraine and where the industry is headed over there and what's going on. So I have already the speakers online over here, and I will ask you these final questions before we move to that session. So guys, as a closing remarks kind of thing, where is the slot streaming ultimately headed, and what role will your company or yourself be playing in pushing the sector towards an ultimate destination? David.
I mean, it's already, pretty well established. So where it goes from here, I guess that looking across the market, there's probably going to be a lot of collaborations between, say, a bit wider influencers to try and pick up wider pools of players. So using celebrities, for example, as streamers, I would imagine, that this can be something that can really, really be built upon, especially as we see the US market opening up. I think there's definitely a lot of opportunity there to get celebrities on board and doing streams. There was, I think, Stake.com recently, they'd done this promotion. I think they had Drake doing a concert or something, if I remember correctly. And these obviously make huge publicity. So it's amazing for acquisition to get players on board, raising the brand profile. So I'd expect there's going to be a lot of this from companies like ours to how are we going to engage and move forward. Obviously, we have to look from the content side. As Brian's saying, it's very important what we can produce is actually going to be of value for the sector as well. We ourselves are looking at different types of products that we can bring in that might offer something slightly different to the market. I can't really say too much, but yeah, these kind of things, from our side, how can we make something engaging, something dramatic, as it seems to be a very crucial word to this, and something that can help us set apart and deliver something entertaining to players and viewers.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your inputs today, David.
Cheers.
Michael.
Yeah, absolutely. Closing remarks. So I think three things. I think Twitch has proven for us that players love to consume the slots sort of experience in this kind of raw, authentic, what I call hoodie style format. So that's one. Two, sitting in the licensed chair, I'm not mentioning Will here, but there are a lot of other streamers out there that unfortunately are using tactics to grow their community that we don't see as very sustainable. So very large bet amounts or crazy behavior on studio, et cetera, and we think sooner or later regulators or Twitch or YouTube themselves will make that even harder. So then where do the players get that experience? And three, you touched on it absolutely perfectly, David. Like, the entertainment angle here, right? And live spins, apart from streaming and sitting inside the operator's lobby, we also think a lot about ourselves as sort of like putting, the good old putting a TV station effectively, or solving the tech and the licensing that the operators need to leverage their brand ambassadors, or they can hire a Twitch streamer, or they can plug in their CEO and they can stream and bet behind whatever they want to do. Speaking to US operators that have land-based properties, they have people, DJing in their club at night, or David Copperfield or whoever it might be. Like, how can they leverage that on their online site? And it's that sort of space, a sort of streaming experience without the, let's say, unsustainable behavior and the entertainment space. That's really what Livespins wants to solve for both providers and operators.
Will? Yeah, that's fascinating from both Michael and David. I definitely think starting with just what Michael said there about possible intervention by YouTube and Twitch. I sort of interjected a point a little bit earlier. It's always on the horizon, always a possibility. It's kind of like a apocalypse scenario whereby all of a sudden we all get switched off. However, I don't, while there's a demand, especially whilst, this is a very sort of fluid industry whereby things sort of flow and always find a way around. I don't think the idea of people watching people playing slots is going to go anywhere. Maybe it moves completely inside casino lobbies in 10 years' time. I would see that would be sustainable as well. I think, touching upon what David said about, bringing in sort of real world celebrities in order to promote products. Again, great idea. I don't know that there would be, if they're not genuinely interested in slots, they may not want to hang around and stream, and play Brian slots, 5 days a week, but it doesn't matter because that's a different part of the pipeline. That's bringing in, as what I'm doing, bringing people into the industry that kind of may not know about it. I think there is definitely room for, people like myself as a sort of quasi Z-list celebrity, being familiar to certain people, as someone that plays slots, and we watch this, and like maybe over the years we kind of hope that casino, online casino becomes a little bit more socially acceptable, which is one of the things that we're also doing, by having these communities and be a little bit more acceptable to watch. You sit down and maybe watch it with your mother-in-law rather than sort of like watching it on your own and it being something that you're a little bit ashamed of. So hopefully these are some of the things that we see changing. But like I say, I really don't think it's going anywhere. I think it's growing, obviously, and I want to be a big part of that.
All right, nice chair, by the way.
That's thanks to Yggdrasil. You can take they got a little bit of corporate sponsorship here. Thank
you, Brian.
Yeah, I think I got to approach it from a product standpoint because that's where I generally live. But I mean, as Will said, like mainstreaming is what's happening, and even if it's something that certain parts of society don't want it to be, it will continue. It's mainly a generational thing. Okay, so we've got younger people are coming into the industry, so to speak, and they are going to be all about watching things on streams. It's already proven. It's not a question. It's happened already. So and that's just not going away. So in that way, it's just an evolution of what we're doing, and the industry will take a while to get there. But we've made massive jumps with COVID to be part of that mainstream digitization, which needed to happen. So this is just part of the journey, guys, and we're on it. And it's we've just got to enjoy it, but it's going to be interesting. I think from my side, like product wise, if you've got a ton of people watching a single person, to make that more enthralling, you're going to want to add interactivity there. So at the moment, for the most part, we've got a dude on a two-dimensional kind of situation with loads of other people watching him, and there's chat. You're going to want to add a lot more interactivity into that experience to really drive it, and then allow players to celebrate. And there's some great papers out there about slot motivation, but more game theory, how players and people interact with other players in a game environment, which again, you can apply to this situation, and that just drives loyalty, it drives trust, it drives retention, and just through sheer amounts of unadulterated entertainment. So we're just starting to tap on it now, and I'm hoping that there will be people out there that will start to push that envelope, provide tools to people like Will to and other kind of forms of streamers, not just in the casino industry, in order to drive that kind of pleasurable experience. And hopefully we'll see the end of EastEnders, because it's horrendous, and we'll have this situation instead. So that's what I'd like to see, and I think we'll do it as we get more and more mainstreams. And then for me and David, I think we've just got to make sure that our products are adapted to fit within that kind of ecosystem, in order to boost our potential. But I still see that what we produce is the core part of it, that you wrap around the drama around it and all those tools. And so, I'm going to do exactly what Michael said and try to do what I do best, which is to do that. And then hopefully other people will bring some cool stuff along to boost it and make it truly awesome.
That's fair. Thank you. Can't believe that we had not said metaverse. Nobody said it. Nobody mentioned it during our long discussion. Yeah. Thank you so much, guys. This has been really fun. I can't believe the time has gone by and we've added 15 more extra minutes. We could have been talking to a lot more. So thank you, everyone. I will give the virtual microphone to our next moderator, Ilya, who is going to approach the Russian and Ukrainian market updates. Thank you, guys. See you somewhere. All right, Ilya.
Thanks a lot.
Take care.
Thanks. Cheers.
Yeah. Hi, Zoltan. Hi, everyone. And thanks a lot for making time for our panel today.
Nice to see you again, Sergey. Nice to see you.
Yeah. We today we are discussing not only Russia and Ukraine, but we're discussing our CIS region in general, and we're discussing it from the angle of the consequences and what to expect from the region after the Russia's assault on Ukraine happened, and after the war has started. And together with me today is my fellow panelists, Sergey Romanenko, who is CEO of DigiPoker.ua, Nika Gigashvili, who is a managing partner of Sports Media Holding and part of the SBC CIS media brand, and Pavel Dergachov, who is special counsel at 4H Agency, which I also represent here on this panel. And I think that the best way for us to start and the best way to approach the topic that we have at hand would be to start with Sergey telling us a little bit about what is going on in Ukraine now, from the standpoint of DigiPoker's employees, from the standpoint of the market, and what is happening over there.
Hi everybody. Thank you for thank you, Ilya, for the invitation. So I want to start from the morning of February 24th. Then everybody realized that the war is started. That moment, it was really hard. That moment, I realized that first of all, my family in danger and our staff in danger. And to be honest, that days, first of all, I told my staff that they, first of all, should think about their safeness, not about our business. Thanks to our head office, headquarters, who help us to organize the shelter. in the west part of Ukraine, which more safely than the east and central part. And our company organized the shelter for the staff and their family. And the most quantity of our employees came to this shelter and spent some time. Somebody spent weeks, somebody spent months in this shelter, in the safer place. Our company paid for everything, and also we organized the food delivery, so everybody can feel safe and be sure that their family also in the safe place. It's really hard experience. To be honest, it's not the experience which I want to share with you, and I hope you will never need such type of experience. But back to the market. After weeks, after the months, the economics in Ukraine started to work again. And government, first of all, government and people understand that you can't defend your country if you don't have the weapon, if you don't have the patrons, if you don't have the food. So government started to focus on restarting the economy, and business started to think how to manage the current situation. Our company went the same way. We started to repair our operation. The headquarters helped us a lot. So some things which previously was made in the Ukrainian office, from that moment was made by the headquarters. But after some time, we started to think what to do in Ukraine, what is in the future. And after some consultation with the management, we decided that we still believe in Ukraine, that we still want to operate in this country, that we still see the future in this country. And I'm very glad that our team can prove our management, and we still will work in Ukraine. We are not going to stop the license. We are going to continue the license in August. Also, I need to say that I see that all markets leaders, all market participants, they use the same tactics, and as I know, for now nobody decided to leave Ukrainian market. Also, I want to add that all our gambling community they help Ukraine a lot in the different ways. For sure, a lot of companies make donation, make to the government, to the army. Some companies make some charity events such as poker tournament or give to the charity the part of the client's deposits. A lot of staff of the gambling companies helps our country in different ways. So I know that some IT guys take part in, we call it IT army. The guys helps to defend our IT infrastructure and make some attacks for the Russian IT infrastructure. Some guys from the marketing help with the propaganda to they trying to defend our media from the Russian propaganda and trying to show the Russian people the real situation in Ukraine. I think that's all.
Thanks, Sergey. Thanks a lot for this overview of what is happening, and I really glad to hear that so far everything is fine with you and your close ones, and I hope that, and it's also quite encouraging to hear that your company sees Ukraine as still as a promising region and as a promising country to continue operating there. I think that we can move on to Pavel and discuss how the war reflected on the Russian market, which was before the war quite difficult and quite distant from other countries of the region. And I guess that after the war, it will become even more distant and even more complicated region. So do you have any insight of what was the reaction of the market participants? What is the current situation there?
Yeah, sure, Leah. First, we usually meet with Sergey in some different perfect places such as Amsterdam, London, Barcelona, and now I really hope that everything will be resolved, and I hope that they will be in safe and everything will be happening in the right direction. And in terms of Russian market, there were, of course, it affected a lot on Russian market, and I can mention a few directions of this impact. The first one, of course, the companies who have their employees as well as in Russia as well as in Ukraine, and they had to manage the situation. They had to evacuate the people from Ukraine, and I literally know the CEO of one of the company who is a Russian guy, and he was in Ukraine on the 24th of February. And he was literally handling all these logistics to the western part of Ukraine, and he settled all his stuff in western part, and then he left the Ukraine, and now he's working from Russia. Of course, there are, sometimes it's very hard to work together for these people, and the teams are separated and the business processes are separated. In terms of the legal betting market, I can say that the biggest impact was made in terms of banking transactions, because a few days after the war started, the government applied a lot of restrictions on the transactions, and now country is isolated from international banking system, but now literally not isolated, but a lot of banks, they apply their own restrictions, and compliance is very strict, and foreign banks as well as Russian banks, they don't want to take a risk even if sanctions are not applied, and They do not want to make the transaction from Russia to Russia, and sometimes there are problems in transactions in Russia. Second point was the marketing. I can say that a lot of Russian operators, they have marketing contracts with foreign sport teams, with foreign leagues, with foreign streamers, and after the war, they had to review their marketing strategy because a lot of contracts was terminated or postponed or whatever it would happen. Then another interesting situation was in Russian market in terms of the continuous of the operations, because I can say that 4 or 5 operators, they went out from Russian market, including some big operators and some Ukrainian-born operators, and there were some small operators who didn't have enough revenue to pay the tax, to pay these contribution fees to the government, and so on. So they decided to leave. And of course, it was a huge impact on the employees in Russia, because the most part of the teams, this is IT people, they prefer to travel a lot, they prefer to work remotely. And in these terms, these people were a bit depressed of the situation. Not a bit depressed, but they were really depressed and they were stressed. They were trying to find a way how to escape Russia, or how to manage the situation with the bank cards, with the traveling, and so on. So yeah, I can say that we also feel that the war affects to us, even if we do not have any sort of military actions on the territory of Russia, but still we are affected.
Okay, thank you, Pavel. Thank you for that as well. And I think that we can touch upon the reasons why these sports betting operators has left the country a bit later in the panel. But before we move on to that, Nika, what is your view on how the region, from your perspective, has reacted on the war, and well, what is happening from your perspective here?
Hello. So for the region's reaction about the situation in Ukraine, I think that firstly, it's worth mentioning that all international community of gambling and betting has supported Ukraine, and we saw the charity fundings and charity campaigns all over the world supporting Ukraine. Even in SBC, we organized the charity fundraising, which supported, like within 2 weeks, we raised over 250,000 British pounds, which were transferred to a Ukrainian charity organization. Also, beyond this, we see that most of the operators, affiliates, and other stakeholders of the industry do support Ukraine in every way they can, financially, like humanitarian products and stuff like that. So I think that firstly, it has made Ukraine even more renowned, and even more awareness has been raised about Ukraine. As for the business side, as I observed, the international companies are still holding back from entering the Ukrainian market, and are observing the situation, because it has like two sides. One side is business-wise, now entering Ukraine could be perceived as like something a bit non-ethical maybe, and on another hand, now starting to promote gambling and entertainment in the country, which has the situation of war, and where people are struggling, wouldn't be that good CSR. So even we saw that one expat has acquired license in Ukraine lately, but they're still holding back, and we don't see any activities from them, which is quite appreciative and good to see, because like now we understand that the company really appreciates Ukrainian people and understands the situation perfectly. From the business standpoint, if we observe Ukraine, as far as I'm informed, and these are not official numbers or anything, these are just rumors, betting and gambling are still working there, and industry, of course, has shrunk, but not significantly. I guess that the decline in the business is around like 20 to 25%, but people still play there, and industry is still working. And what's good to see is that even though the country has a very difficult situation, not only gambling, but all other industries are working. They're not afraid of anything. They're trying to keep everything rolling, and this has to be supported hugely from the international perspective as well. And we see that Ukrainian regulator is very active in social media, posting that they are still working on the regulations. They are still working with the operators. They are ready to issue licenses. They are welcoming every single company that might be entering Ukrainian market, which is really something to admire, because even in these difficult situations where you have the threat of like losing your life, and it's an ugly situation. Me personally, I've been in the situation in 2008, and I know how it feels. And in the difficulty to keep on developing the business is something like special. So from my perspective today, Ukraine has more focus on it than ever. And in future, I guess Ukraine has huge potential for development. I think Pavel has something to comment.
Yes, thank you, Nika. Pavel, please.
I also want to say that I missed a couple of points which I really find relevant to the situation. We have a big challenge in terms of the marketing, because a lot of broadcastings was skipped by the rights owners. And for example, you cannot watch English Premier League or Spanish league or Italian league on Russian TV. And in these terms, all the bookies, they are evaluating their marketing budgets again, and they're trying to understand how much to spend and where to spend. There is also a huge problem with the Russian team is participating in different international events, because everyone was expecting Russian to participate in the World Cup, and everyone was planning the budget in terms of on the World Cup. But as you all know, Russian teams, they are not involved in international sporting activities since March. So here we see that betting companies, they have to understand how to find a way to spend the money, because the money which was involved in it is huge. The other key point, in Russia, formally, it was allowed to promote the betting activities only on TV, but for now, all the bookies, they were using different methods, such as Facebook or Instagram, to promote the gambling activity and to promote the apps. And since the end of April, I guess, the Facebook and Instagram became an extremist organization in Russia. And if a betting company is putting some money for promoting the apps through these networks, they can be it can be clarified as financing of extremists and terrorists. And the penalty is really tough. It is 15 years in jail for such actions. And in this regard, affiliate marketing and different CPA networks also feel a big pressure on them. And in combination with different payments restrictions, in combination with Visa and MasterCard going out from Russia, and in terms of this suspended their operations in Russia, the affiliate networks, they cannot even pay for the advertising, and they cannot pay for Apple account, for Google ads, for Google accounts, for Facebook accounts, and so on. And for now, as far as I know, this is a big challenge for them. In addition to that, I can add that Russian Premier League expected to get 10 billion Russian rubles in the next few years for exclusive gambling contract with one of Russian operators, and due to the war started, due to all these changes in the media landscape, and because of different measures applied by government, this operator decided not to exit the contract. And for now, the amount of payments will be decreased. And of course, Russian Championship, the only one, like event which is on the TV for now, is not very attractive because good players and a lot of foreign specialists, such as coaches, doctors, management, they live in Russia. So here we see that betting company, they still have money. They want to spend this money, but there are not enough tools to spend this money and to convert this money to the revenue. So this is what we have now here, and looking forward to understand how it will be settled, to be honest.
Actually, thank you for helping me to move over to the next group of questions that I have for you guys here. And this group of questions pertains to mainly the perspectives of the region and of the countries within the region from, again, as usual, from your point of view. And I think that we can start again with Sergey and discuss Ukraine's perspective in greater detail here, because obviously we have seen a lot of discussion and a lot of intrigue, if I may say so, before the war, when the Ukrainian government and Ukrainian Gambling Commission was attempting to reform and update the gambling market, at least by way of introducing the tax bill and the taxation framework for the industry, as well as their attempts to establish a monitoring system in the country. And my personal understanding is that as of today, there is nothing really happening on this front, and there is nothing really happening with regard to these two subjects. So maybe you have something to some insights in this regard as well, representative of licensed Ukrainian market. And this is, well, the first question to you. And the second question to you is that how do you see the situation unfolding in the future, again, especially given that Ukrainian market, albeit started and albeit legalized, still, I believe, before the war, still hasn't managed to reach its full potential. So how do you think it would be possible, again, given the circumstances, and hoping that the war will finish as soon as possible?
First of all, I want to say that Nika is very informative about Ukrainian market, and I will add only some details. But first of all, I want to tell that history shows that after the crisis or great shock, not just a renaissance, but also a further development. Therefore, the potential of the Ukrainian region, in my opinion, has not changed. I see a few important aspects of this potential. First of all, it's support for Ukrainian economics, and it's connected with your question that the government realized that it's very important segment of the future economics, and that government need a lot of money for rebuilding the country. And a lot of people in Ukraine realize that in the future, after the war, Ukraine will be a very popular place as a touristic country, and for sure the land-based casinos is the part of the touristic sphere. The second important aspect is charity initiatives. As I said, as I previously mentioned, a lot of helps came from the gambling industry, because this sphere have money, and for example, our company make some donation for the Ukrainian social initiatives. A lot of our employees make different donation and different help to the country. Our poker network organized the charity event, which collect almost 90,000 US dollars for Ukrainian social initiative. And the third aspect is last but not least, it's a psychological aspect. It's not a secret for anyone who come here that gaming and gambling are successful not because clients want to become rich. It's successful because people want to get distracted from their daily problems, want to socialize, to be a part of a community like in poker. During the new history of the Ukraine, of our independent country, Ukrainians have repeatedly demonstrated the ability to unite around some idea. We currently laying the foundation, building a new purely Ukrainian gambling community, and for me it's easier to speak about poker community. So, for example, people supporting each other and respecting each other, and it's the basic rules of this new community. So the war changes the eternal rules. And what makes me personally happy is that these rules are formulated by the community itself. The war changes the emphasis. For now, it's important to focus on the implementation, the new trends, not only on the business. For example, when our ambassadors prepared for their first streams for commenting live poker event, it was the moral question: should we do it right now? What purpose of this? And the answer was provided by the community itself. People watched and wrote comments from the bomb shelters and even trenches. It's a little bit crossed with the things which Nika mentioned in his speech. In the first stage is extremely important in any action. When the leader is ready to be ridiculed or criticized, and we have taken this leadership in this sphere. Made first toughest steps. Today we see a number of new leaders, of new people who go next to each other and involve, engage new other leaders. So the action and movement has begun. Back to your question, Ilya, about the government, about gambling authorities, it's my own opinion. I see the will from the government, from the gambling authority to help the industry. So industry understands all of problems of government, but gambling authorities is trying to, even now, they're still trying to solve these problems to manage some situation. So first of all, I need to mention some interesting fact that the government decreased some kinds of taxes. It's not only for gambling, it's in general, but for gambling too. And as I know, no one of gambling company doesn't use this decreasing. They pay full size of the taxes. And I see that everything will be okay. And then I watch for our country for now. I strongly believe that our sphere still has a lot of potential, but we need the peace for the rapid development. I believe in the best future for the gambling in Ukraine.
Sergey, can I add some comments about Ukraine to your speech? So I actually, I'm not surprised, but I'm thinking a lot about Ukrainian people who left the country, but they all of them, they have the will to come back to the country and to develop the country. So this is a very big advantage for Ukraine. And in terms of developing of the gambling law, we all know the key points which haven't been resolved yet. So this is certification question, this is tax question, and so on. And all the situations should be tweaked in future, and hopefully it will be tweaked in nearest future. But as we all know, Ukraine has has signed the candidate EU application form. And in these terms, EU has some kind of recommendations for gambling authorities to apply some different measures to the regulation. And I expect that it will be a huge United Europe officials' involvement in this process, and hopefully it will speed up the process, because from my point of view, this industry can be built in a very fast way, and it will not take a long time to start funding the budget from gambling industry. And I feel very positive in terms of gambling development in Ukraine. And I'm not sure if I sound right, but the conflicts, the military conflicts, they always trigger a lot of different development projects. And in this regard, I'm sure that the conflict will trigger, and it will make their gambling regulation built, and the gambling operators will start operating, and everything will be built in nearest future. So this is my point of view on the situation in Ukraine. I'm totally sure that we are all on the same page here.
As I mentioned before, I'm very glad to take part in this panel, that my co-participants such informative about business in Ukraine. And yes, it's true. We hope to become the part of the European family, to become the part of European Union. And for sure, it's not only formal participation. It's for sure, it's practice, politics, procedures, unification of all these things. And for sure, it will help for if this happens. It will help for the our industry. And but anyway, it's not the fact for now. But the current situation that the parliament, I think it's more answer for the Ilya's question. That the parliament for now is focused on the implementation some special war which we need to defend our country, and I think everybody understands that the gambling is not the first important things for now. But eternally, I see the movement from the government, from the gambling agency.
Yeah, and we're observing a lot of conflicts in the parliament about the gambling law, but about the taxation and these terms. And now I really hope that it will be resolved very fast. And because everyone has the mutual goal to develop the country, to come back to business as usual after the conflict will finish, and everyone will be focused on money generation, and it will be even Parliament will find the way how to do it, and how to do it very fast without the conflicts, without the separation, which we were observing before. So I'm pretty optimistic to the development of the country here.
Thanks, guys. I think that in terms of discussing what's next for the region and for the markets within our region, I think that we also ought to discuss Central Asia markets, and basically I think that we need to discuss two of them, which is Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan. And I think we can start with Kazakhstan. Nika, Pavel, Sergey, do you have anything to tell us about what's going on in Kazakhstan, and what are the perspectives of Kazakhstan market as well? I see that
maybe
Nika has something.
Maybe I can start with the Kazakhstan overview, and then maybe Pavel can add, as far as he's also very informed about the market. For Kazakhstan, for today, I guess it's the most stable market within the post-Soviet countries and Central Asia, as I observe it. So the situation is that even though there were some turbulences in the beginning of this year politically, it was resolved quite quickly and strictly, let's say so, which secured the market, secured the political situation. So as we observe it from the outer point of view, Kazakhstan is going to be stable for upcoming few years, and this makes it very secure. As for the betting and gambling is prohibited in Kazakhstan, but betting is allowed. And the government now is working on a newer regulations, which would be a bit more strict and would bring more regulations to the market. But as far as I'm informed, it's not going to be like Georgia or Armenia, where everything got banned. No, it's allowed and nothing can be done on the marketing point of view. It's going to be more European-ish regulation, which allows business to grow, which doesn't kill sports media, which doesn't kill many additional related industries with the gambling, which grow from money generated in this region, in this industry. So I think that it's going to be a very interesting market within upcoming years from the perspective that people love to bet. And sports betting is not that, let's say, doesn't have that evil image of the industry as gambling has. Within our region, you know that gambling is seen as something like not fun and not entertaining, but some kind of bad thing to do. And I guess that our industry stakeholders have much to do to educate people that it's just one good way of leisure, but you have to be responsible. You have to understand that the money that you gamble is just spent on like leisure, and it's not the investment, and it's not like something to generate revenue from. So this is the view of Kazakhstan. As for Uzbekistan, as we all know, back 2 years ago, the president came out and said that betting should be legalized there, and they actively tried to make it work. Initially, there was a special agency that worked on that, and the ministry worked on that, and another ministry worked on that, and finally, I guess around a month ago, president came out and said that no legalization will be taking place anywhere soon. So I guess Uzbekistan stays the gray area for operators, and they can proceed as they work there. As for the Central Asia, as far as I'm informed, Kyrgyzstan has just announced that they're going to be opening up the market. Tajikistan is open, but the market is really small, and the big wins that they love to promote and announce are just ridiculous. So I don't observe Tajikistan as an interesting market for international players so far. But for the local operators, like the market really is big in terms of if you compare it to the country's economy, the industry is good, and there are many land-based shops and points of betting. So it's gonna be a point where we have to observe, because maybe they start to grow and they start to evolve. But as for today, the scales are too small. So in terms of like Central Asia, I guess this is the overview, the very broad overview and superficial. If we go in details, we can talk hours and hours, because many tiny details are affecting different things on the market, starting from betting, adding sports media, adding affiliation, adding a bunch of other stuff. But if we give like the bird's eye view on the topic, this is what I can say about it. How about maybe you could add some more?
Yeah, I will start with Uzbekistan. You mentioned that President declined his intention of making the market, but from my point of view, this was an executive order made by the president, which declined the previous executive order of the president. So for now, they're not literally the will to stop the building the gambling market. They just postponed or something like that. So the process came back to the baseline as it was 3 years ago, and we are waiting for new developments of the situation. If we are talking about the Kazakhstan now is sorry, Ilya,
I'll just quickly add on Uzbekistan, if I may. I, as a moderator, I'm well not supposed to add anything to discussion, but well, this is quite interesting topic, and I want to like just quickly jump in. So, in my own view, what has happened in Uzbekistan, I mean that the initial idea to legalize sports betting that was implemented into the presidential decree has not really. It's not really a negative thing, because in the end of the day, what has happened is that for 3 years, the country was developing regulations. The country was weighing in the perspective of legalizing sports betting. And now there is no focus on sports betting only. So I might sound crazy now, and I might sound overly optimistic, but I really do see the perspective of legalizing online casinos, land-based casinos, in addition to sports betting, also online poker, and practically work on all type of verticals that there are in our industry. But again, I might be overly optimistic here. Just a quick comment on Uzbekistan. Pavel, please go on.
Okay, you are too optimistic. So in Uzbekistan, we are following a very interesting situation. As well, in Kazakhstan, Kazakhstan was always close to Russia, and now Kazakhstan officials, they are in a very strange position, because they want to develop the country in the Western fashion, and they want to work with the United States as well, with China, with European Union, and they're trying to balance in this situation as they can, as well as they can. And what we see now, now we see that there are a few betting operators who work there, and they are trying to be involved in the process of the change in the regulation, and they're trying to offer some key points to the government, to the parliament, in terms of different essential stuff, such as license requirements, different social activity to be applied, some marketing restrictions, and in these terms, it is very good. They're trying to find the dialogue with the government and with the parliament. And we also see that a lot of Russian-based and Ukraine-based operators are going to this market. Literally a few days ago, Meetup announced that they will penetrate the market very soon with their own license. And in Russia, a lot of operators are looking on Kazakhstan also. They are trying to investigate what is happening there. How to get the license, how to start to operate. And I know some numbers from Kazakhstan, and I can say that it definitely worth, because this is very big market, and this is very developed market, and it is developed, but it is not very competitive market, and you can even do some startup there, and it will be profitable, and it will grow very fast. So Kazakhstan, I can say, can be the most beneficiary of the current situation in all the region. Because we see that operators want to develop, regulator and government and parliament, they all want to continue working with the gambling operators. And for now, we just have to wait until a new law will be announced, and we should focus on it, and to wait until new big companies will invent the market. I'm not sure if any Western operators or public companies have intention to go to this region in general in nearest future for 1 or 2 years, but I expect that it will be more and more operators in Kazakhstan very soon, and which is good, especially for the country, especially for the taxation, especially for development of the different media, development of the sport industry, of everything better than me. So I'm pretty positive with Kazakhstan, but not so positive with Uzbekistan as Ilya. Uzbekistan is in a more weak position for now, but we'll see what will be happening there.
Let's cheer for Ilya's optimism, because if Uzbekistan opens up, it's a huge market with the biggest population after Russia in the region. So if Uzbekistan opens up, it's a huge opportunity for the whole industry. So Ilya, we support your optimism.
Yeah.
Yes, let's cheer for my optimism. Let's cheer for Uzbekistan. Let's cheer for all the developments that might happen in the region. And I think that it's time for closing remarks, because we are almost finished with our time for this panel. And I think that for the purpose of closing this panel, I will ask you a more general question about what do you feel would happen with the region and our industry in this region in the next 3 to 5 years. Again, given that the war will hopefully end soon and the peace will come to the Ukraine, and that region will not be anymore shattered by ongoing Russian aggression. Sergey, I see that you have something to say.
Yeah, I want to answer the first. I want to say that for sure we all waiting for the end of the war. And but I think the main thing which happened after this war, we need to realize that there is no CIS region anymore. So this market becomes more fragmented. and it will be separated markets. It will be separated Ukraine markets. Separated. It's even for now separated Georgian and Armenian markets. And it will be Russian markets, and on the first stage, I think it will be Asian countries market. But anyway, it will be. It is a strong direction for the different separated markets. It will be separated in all details, in marketing things, in in operation perspective. So the main thing that no one knows CIS region anymore. But anyway, we will use these three letters to call this area on the earth.
Yes, I think that this is actually a very important point here that I also fully support it, and I totally agree that I think that, well, even before the war, it was a quite ambitious decision to call that, well, all the countries that are situated in the former USSR territory as a single region CIS or what have you, while it's quite different countries and quite different markets. But now after the war, I think that it's definitely going to be, well, a different story and a different approach to the countries in question and in discussion. Okay, closing remarks, Nika?
Sure. Firstly, I totally agree with you that the international perspective observes the post-Soviet countries as a single region, and they don't understand that Soviet Union was like union of different countries with different cultures, different languages, different mentality and temper. So we have to understand that when talking about CIS, we are talking about very diverse region, and the approach from the operators and from the business has to be adjusted for every single country. And in many cases, you have to adjust to the regions of the country because they also differ significantly, and you have to understand how to work with them. As for the region, I think that firstly, Ukraine is going to be a hub for our industry, taking into consideration the number of operators that are already presented and who are willing to be there. Secondly, taking into consideration the scale of the country, the number of population, the educational level of population of betting and gambling. They are well educated, and Ukraine has always been one of the sophisticated countries for the industry, even though it was gray area and it has just now become regulated. As for the region, we have to mention Armenia, which is one of the largest tech provider in the industry, having BetConstruct and Digitain there, which is hugely contributing to the global market. Also, Georgia has presented like 3 world giants within this small country, and I guess we've helped the international market in terms of marketing and retention, because Georgia's operators have proven expertise in retaining the customers. And I know that after overtaking Georgian operators, their holdings are implementing the tactics and strategies used here in their other countries and other operations as well. As for Kazakhstan, as we mentioned, it's a very interesting market, and I think the broad overview covers this all.
Yeah, I will add some gas to this fire. It always was strange for me when people were talking about European regulation. It was never called as EU because we all know that there were UK in EU, there is Sweden, there is a Spanish market, Italian market, and all these markets are very different. And we never called Western European as the whole market with the whole with the mutual regulation or with mutual approach, because we all know that Nordics are playing one way, southern countries they are playing another way. Greece market is totally different here. To be honest, I never counted CIS as the region with the same rules, with the same approach. It was only one reason why it called the same this way, because of the media landscape, because the people was taking the information from the same sources, and the most part of these people, they are speaking Russian. They know Russian language, depending on the country. Somewhere using it more or less, but in general, for now, we see that trend is going for the separation. Each country is trying to find their way to build. Even if we're looking on Uzbekistan is changing the script from Cyrillic to another one, to the European script, and for now even they are going further from the CIS, not from the paper perspective, but from the operational and business perspective. In terms of development, yes, I totally agree with Nika. We also following situation in Armenia, in Georgia, and I do not expect anything good will be happening there in terms of the market opening, and because the government, there is a big role of the church in the regulation, and everyone, if anything's happening, people are going to the church, to the Pope, to ask them to influence the government, to influence the parliament, to apply more and more strict regulations. And while the situation will be continue, nothing no big changes will be made. I'm optimistic with Kazakhstan because it is interesting, and a lot of people are showing their interest in Kazakhstan, and Kazakhstan is still trying to be in this mediation position in between Western, Eastern, Russian, and Southern world, and they are managing it better and better each year. And after different talks with Kazakhstan officials, I understand that they are going to build long-term separations. That they are going to build. They understand that when they are changing the law, they are doing it once in 5 or 10 years, and they will not have any chance to change it or to tweak it. And in this regards, these approaches are always attractive for the operators, because operators are looking for certainty. They are looking for transparent rules. They are looking for integrity, and if Kazakhstan will show it, it will be a good touch point, and I'm sure that this market will be developed. About Russian, I think that Russian market will be developing. The volume will be growing. We do not know what will be happening with the currency, but if we're talking about the amount of the transactions, amount of the deposits, amount of the bets which were placed, it will be definitely growing, because the law, it was few changes in the law recently, in recent years. All market participants, they were expected that it will ruin the markets, but we see that even the regulator, which was introduced in the last year, this regulator works. No one understands that it is working. And this is good. When you don't mention something, it means that it doesn't making the business bad. And we see that all integrations are working, and even this TSUPIS stuff with unified payment methods and with mutual KYC base, it actually works, and it works good. And they are developing the structure anytime, but the negative impact can be applied by the parliament and government, because As we know, any military action needs to get more and more money. And we all know that Russian sport teams, they are not participating in the big events, and they do not have big sponsors now, because in the past it was huge commercial chains such as BMW, Procter & Gamble, who was sponsoring the teams. But for now, all the sponsors are gone, and government will be trying to get more and more money from operators to fund sporting activity. So in this regard, market will be growing. It will be isolated. Highly likely, it will be some new operators which will be born in Russia, and we will see how it will look like, because I expect that it will be big currency changes in the future. So that is maybe for Russia. About Ukraine, I already said everything, and good luck. I hope it will be growing, it will be good, and it will be good to have Ukraine as a landmark to understand how the country can be developed in terms of the gambling and so on.
Thanks, Pavel. Thanks a lot, and thanks, guys. And I guess close it off from my side. I also really hope that the war will end as soon as possible. And it seems that, despite Russia being was a huge market, and now since Russia will be largely isolated from the industry community and from the world in general, I think that this growth that, Pavel, you have mentioned, it will be not so impressive, I would say. And in the same time, I also believe that the main takeaway that we can have from this panel, I guess, is that it's not anymore CIS, and it's time to look at the region differently. Thanks a lot, Sergey, Nika, and Pavel. Thanks a lot, Zoltan, for providing us with a platform to speak about CIS and about what's going on. And I hope that everyone had a great time, and that we will meet again soon.
Thank you, Ilya. Thank you, guys. Yeah, you are welcome, and you are more than welcome to come again. And I wrote in the chat, and for those who are listening on YouTube, the recording of this session and the earlier panel discussion is available on the Hipter YouTube channel, so you can just go by it and find it. Thank you, everyone, for joining us, and wishing you a lovely day ahead. Take good care.
Thanks. Have a great afternoon, guys.